7:42 a.m. I was sipping coffee on the porch of the house I inherited when two police cruisers rolled up my driveway, lights flashing like it was a crime scene. The HOA had called the cops claiming I was trespassing on my own land. And 5 months later, that same HOA, the one that tried to ruin my life, was paying rent to me. I didn't plan on declaring war with a homeowners association, but Dahlia Pritchett, the queen of Pinehurst Meadows, made that decision for me. My name's Garrett Chen, 52, retired Army Logistics Coordinator. After 22 years of solving other people's messes in dusty places overseas, I thought I'd finally earned some quiet. My wife passed away 4 years ago, cancer fast, brutal. My daughter lives 2 states away with my grandkids. When my Uncle Monty died and left me his house in Colorado, I thought maybe, just maybe, this was my second chance at life. The place was old, but solid. 1970s ranch-style wood smell baked into the walls, 2 acres of pine and wild grass. No mortgage, no neighbors too close, no rules, just the sound of wind through the trees. I fixed things. I built shelves. I started to breathe again. Until day 3, when a white Lexus SUV crunched into my gravel driveway like it owned the place. Out stepped Dahlia Pritchett, platinum blonde bob designer yoga outfit that probably cost more than my truck payment. She smiled like a politician, all teeth, no warmth. "Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm Dahlia, HOA president. We're thrilled to have you join our little community." I wiped sawdust off my hands. "Appreciate it, but I'm not actually in the HOA. My uncle's property predates your development." Her smile froze mid-sentence. You could almost hear the click of ice forming. "Oh, sweetie, that's a common misconception." When Pinehurst Meadows incorporated in '92, all adjacent parcels were automatically enrolled. County records confirm it. She handed me a glossy folder, invoices, fees, and words like mandatory compliance. 2 years of back dues, $3,200 total, plus $150 per month going forward. Oh, and a $750 acclimatization fee. I've read contracts written by warlords, and this smelled the same. "I'll verify that with a lawyer before I pay a dime," I told her. Her eyes hardened behind those sunglasses. "That's unfortunate. Visible commercial vehicles are prohibited. You'll need to garage that truck $200 a day if you don't. And that rustic mailbox? Not compliant. Replace it by Friday." She turned perfume trailing like expensive poison. That night I dug out Monty's old land survey, yellowed edges, coffee stains. My lot number sat outside their development line like a lone island. Still doubt crept in. What if she was right? Army training kicked in, gather intel, first strike later. I drove 30 miles to the county clerk's office. Under flickering fluorescent lights I found it, the original plat map. My parcel, Lot 447, Block 12, explicitly excluded from the HOA. They'd tried to expand twice in 2003 and 2011. Both attempts rejected by the county for improper notice. In other words, Dahlia was lying through her perfect teeth. I called my old Army buddy, now real estate lawyer, Luther Chen. Sent him the photos. He whistled through the phone. "Garrett, she's committing fraud, criminal fraud. Send her a cease and desist. Ignore every fine." I typed the letter that night, hands shaking with something that wasn't fear, pure anger. 3 days later I came home to find a bright yellow boot clamped on my truck wheel. A note taped to the windshield, vehicle immobilized per HOA Covenant 14.7c. I stood there in disbelief. Called Hector, my locksmith buddy. He showed up, grinned, pulled out an angle grinder, and in 90 seconds the boot hit the gravel. "You didn't hear that from me," he said, "but this lady's crazy. Watch your back." That evening Dahlia's Lexus rolled by. Slow. 10 minutes later it rolled by again. No headlights, just watching. That was her warning. Mine went out the next morning, certified mail. Cease and desist. I even added a line at the end. P.S. I look forward to clarifying property boundaries at your earliest convenience. 2 days later came her next move. 2 police cruisers in my driveway. Officer Martinez, calm, mid-30s, asked for ID. Dahlia stood at the edge of my lawn, arms crossed, yelling about trespassing on HOA common property. I handed Martinez my deed and the county survey. He ran the records, then turned to her. "Ma'am, this property isn't in your HOA. Calling 911 for a civil dispute is misuse of emergency services. Don't do it again." You should have seen her face, like someone had just unplugged her battery. When the cruisers left, I looked at the crowd of curious neighbors. "If any of you are paying dues," I said, "might want to check the county records. They're free. You might be paying for nothing." That sentence spread faster than gossip at a church potluck. Within 24 hours, 5 neighbors called me. All of them had stories, fake fines, threats, fees for violations that didn't exist. One of them, Iris, a silver-haired woman with eyes sharp as glass, told me Dahlia had made her tear down her fence and pay $12,000 in legal costs. I realized I wasn't her first target. I was just the first one who didn't fold. We met at my house the next weekend. 22 neighbors crammed into Monty's old living room holding boxes of documents and coffee cups. We built what we called the Pinarest Property Rights Group. Iris brought her files, a Vietnam vet named Jean brought photos. Another couple showed spreadsheets that could make an accountant weep. When we pieced it together, the picture was sickening. Dahlia had forced a special road repair assessment for $500 per household. That's $661,000 total. The county had no record of any road work, no permits, no contractors, nothing. The money had vanished. And the management company, the HOA, used Pritchett Property Services, owned by Dahlia and her husband, a county commissioner. They'd been billing themselves $400 to $500 a month for administrative consulting. Luther called it textbook embezzlement. "If you play this right," he said, "you can take her down legally, but we'll need leverage." Turns out the HOA's common property, the pool clubhouse gates, was mortgaged through a private lender. They were 3 months behind on payments. Luther smirked. "We buy the debt." At first I thought he was joking, but it made perfect sense. The lender would sell it cheap to avoid foreclosure headaches. If we owned the debt, we'd own the HOA's assets. And Dahlia, she'd personally guaranteed the loan. I had $40,000 from Monty's savings. The neighbors pooled the rest. $95,000 total. We wired the payment. 2 signatures later, I became Dahlia's landlord. She didn't know it yet, but when she did, oh, I was ready. Before the paperwork even cleared, my truck got keyed. Leaves sprayed across the side in red. Brock's build was unmistakable on my Ring camera. I filed a report. Martinez sighed. "She's getting desperate. Keep your head down, but keep going." A week later, Dahlia filed a lawsuit. Claimed I was defaming the HOA, spreading false accusations. Court date set. The morning of the hearing, the room was packed. Dahlia sat at the defense table like a CEO on magazine cover day, cream dress, perfect hair lawyer at her side. Luther leaned over to me. "Stay calm. Judges smell emotion." Dahlia's lawyer, Kyle, stood first, full of arrogance. "Your Honor, this man orchestrated a smear campaign to destabilize a lawful HOA. He handed the judge photos of my property screenshots from Facebook. We request an injunction barring him from all HOA business." Then Luther stood quiet but sharp. "Your Honor, Mr. Chen's property was never enrolled in their HOA. We have the original county plats, rejected expansion attempts, and financial records showing $661,000 in unaccounted funds." The judge flipped through the papers. Silence stretched thin. Then he looked over his glasses. "Mrs. Pritchett, can you produce documentation proving his property is in your HOA?" Dahlia smiled, the kind of smile you give when you're drowning. "It's in our archives. We can submit it later." "I'm asking if you have it now." She froze. Her lawyer whispered something frantic. She stammered, "We're experiencing difficulty locating the original." The judge set his glasses down. "I imagine you are. Motion denied. And I'm referring this case to the district attorney for investigation, embezzlement, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty." Bang, gavel down. Dahlia shot up, stormed out, cameras flashing as reporters chased her down the hallway. I should have felt relief. Instead, all I felt was exhaustion. Weeks of fighting paperwork, whispers, vandalism, it all crashed down. That night I sat on my porch staring at the dark mountains, wondering if it was even worth it. Maybe I should just sell and walk away. Let them rot. Then Iris texted me, "You gave us hope." Simple words, but they pulled me back. People were counting on me now. And Dahlia wasn't done yet. 2 days later, every mailbox in the neighborhood had glossy flyers, my face next to bold red letters. Protect your investment vote. No on the recall. She'd fabricated a whole narrative called me dishonorably discharged a California agitator. Some newer residents believed it. I started getting calls, strangers asking if it was true. That was my breaking point. Not anger, just clarity. The next morning I posted the truth online, every document, every county record, the judge's statement. Within hours, comments flooded in. People saying we believe you, others sharing their own HOA horror stories. The tide turned. When election day came, turnout hit 71%, highest in neighborhood history. The count finished late afternoon. My slate 89 votes, Dahlia's 14. As the results were read, cheers erupted. Luther shook my hand. Congratulations, Mr. President. But before I could speak, the clubhouse doors flew open. Dahlia stumbled and hair wild eyes red. You think you've won? My husband will bury you, she screamed. Martinez stepped from the back. Ma'am, you need to leave. She shouted one last threat. You'll regret this, before he guided her out. That was the last time I saw her free. The next morning, the DA's office raided her home. They found shredded documents, cash, and records linking her to 6 other fraudulent HOAs. She was indicted on 14 counts embezzlement, fraud, witness tampering. Her husband resigned. Her lawyer got disbarred. The neighborhood finally exhaled. But I didn't celebrate. I just stood on my porch again, same spot where the cops had pulled up months before, and watched the sun rise over the Rockies. You know, people think justice feels like fireworks. It doesn't. It feels like silence. Like breathing again after being underwater too long. And if you take one thing from my story, let it be this. Bullies win because people stay quiet. Don't. Check your records. Know your rights. And never let anyone with a clipboard tell you who owns your land.